How you doing? Anthony Ferraro here of Create Sci-Fi. Today we're making something unexpected, a little off the beaten path for us, a little random maybe. C-3PO hands, or rather C-3PO inspired hands. Why? Well, for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, a friend of mine, old college roommate actually, is a musician. He's got a song out. It's on Bandcamp. It's called Master Luke, right? So it's from the point of view of C-3PO. I just thought that was funny. So you see here in this picture, the vibe is it's the C-3PO mask and a suit, and he's going to make a music video for this, but he realized he needed hands, right? So this is something I wanted to demonstrate on this channel. It's just like a one-off, right? A lot of time we make really sort of fine, detailed blasters and costume pieces. This is just, we just need this for one day, right? So we built it in just a few hours, right? The idea is he's going to have the mask on, he's going to be performing. This is not screen accurate, this is not a cosplay, and he's just going to be doing whatever. And so, you know, visually this just needed to cue in your head, yeah, those are C-3PO hands, I don't need to think about it, right? So what I do is I'll go and I'll look at images of the real thing. And in this case, because I'm not trying to do a cosplay or screen accurate, you just look for the visual cues, but we're just doing just little nods to it, right? So what I'll do is I'll absorb those images, and then in the case of this, I won't print them out and use them as reference. I just sort of riff off whatever it is kicking around in my head. All right, well, let's dive right in. And these are all parts and pieces that I have in my spare parts bins and scraps. So this is some craft foam. Here's some thinner craft foam. Those gloves I just happen to have from another project. There's some scraps of foam. And I did a really rough drawing. I'm only sharing this with you to show just how loose this was. We're going to build this on the fly. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a pattern on this glove with some tape, some painter's tape. So this just allows me to create a pattern that's going to be exactly the shape without having to finesse it too much. And I'm going to put this on some cardstock, and then that way it'll just give me a better template. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the same thing with the fingers. I'm just going to roughly trace about what size I want my foam pieces to be. And then because I'm using one piece, but I want to put like a faux knuckle break in there, I'm just marking where my knuckles actually are, right? I'm not measuring it with a ruler, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. So now I have all my hand patterns on the cardstock, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. Now I have those lines which are in the CPO hand. I just roughly sketched those out just so I would know where they are and to kind of keep that in mind as a target as I'm building this. So now I lay out the pattern, and you know, that looks fine. Of course we'll be fine tuning it. So I'm going to transfer the back of the hand piece right here onto the heaviest of my foam. And again, putting those lines in there because those are going to be ridge lines, but I want to keep them sort of in perspective of the hand, so I don't want to lose that. And there, quickly, you saw I just marked, I have to know what's the right and what's the left. So now I'm just taking my scrap foam and just cutting some strips, and these are going to be the ridges. I think in the original one, the real one, there's 4 of them, but again, we're just trying to give an impression of this hand. So there, I lay that out, and that looks fine. So now I'm just going to take some super glue, because this is a one-day build and this will happen quickly. I put a few lines of super glue on there and just going to place these ridges down. Again, I'm going pretty quick on this. This is, you know, like a one-day build. This is going to be a prop used once, so I'm not going to go crazy. So now I'm going to trace out all my fingers. And again, this is a piece of scrap foam. Just roughly marking these out because I know I'll probably trim them. And then I'm going to put the knuckle line. So here I'm just going to use my wood burning tool, and I'm just going to score that line in there just so that I don't have to cut it, I don't have to do anything extra, it's just there. And once we do the paint treatment on there, that'll really pop. So now I just cut these all out, rinse, repeat, You know, when you're doing hands, there's a lot of fingers. So once you get it dialed in, you're just kind of in the assembly line. So now I'm going to cut out all these fingers. And the main thing here is to make sure you number everything and you don't mix them up. Because once you have a whole stack of fingers, it's easy to mix them up. You see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 there. And I just lay that out, and now it's starting to look like something. But now I'm just going to test it on the glove. Just because you measure twice and things still, you know, can have a life of their own. So now in the actual hand, there's these little raised pieces. So I'm just going to, again, just sort of make a little bit of a silhouette that kind of harkens to that. It's a nod to it. It's not on the nose, but at a glance, it'll get you there. So I'm just going to take some super glue and I'm just going to put this fingertip piece on there. And then I'm going to move on to the knuckle next. There's just going to be a little piece on that knuckle, and I do the same thing. I cut a piece of scrap foam, put a little bevel on there, and I'm just going to tack it down with some super glue. There you see the bevel. And these things, again, they're just, this is not a hero prop, right? And this is just going to add visual interest. I put that on there. No super glue on my fingers yet. Not sure how long that'll last. So yeah, there's the finger. That looks good. And so now the assembly line, do that off camera. And once again, the layout, always you want to check in and make sure everything's on track. So now there's these pistons, right? I think there's 3 of them in the actual hand. So I have these bamboo skewers, and then I have these hair rollers that I picked up at the dollar store, and I knew they'd come in handy one day, and today was that day. So now I just take my Dremel buzzsaw and I cut these skewers all to the same size. Again, just eyeballing this. This falls short of the knuckle in the real thing, so I'm just trying to give an impression of that. So now it's like Play-Doh day here, just cutting the cookie dough. So now I'm assembling these pistons. So I put the first piece there on the bottom, and I'm going to build from this. What I do is, you know, I examine the real item, and then I have an impression in my head. And then I tend to not look back at it since I'm not going for accuracy here. And then I just start putting discs on this skewer and just trying to emulate that piston. Basically, I just sort of move things around till, you know, it looks about right. So now that's close. I feel like it needs one more little piece. I think it should be a different height. So I just cut a strip of foam. I wrap this around here. I didn't have to be too particular with this because the bottom part will be glued against the glove. So yeah, just adding different levels. And then I think to round it out, I just need a little piece on the tip. So I just quickly cut out some squares from foam, dabbed it in the super glue, and there it is. There's my pistons. And again, once this has paint and it's moving around, not a hero prop, this is going to work great. So I figure out where I want to place these on the hand, and then off camera, I'll just go ahead and super glue that down. And there it is, starting to look like something. So now I'm going to paint everything with a coat of Plastidip. So what you want to do when you're painting loose pieces like this is just put a piece of painter's tape or double-sided tape, and I'm just going to fasten everything down, and I'm going to take my Plastidip, and I'm going to give this probably like 2 coats of Plastidip. And because this is a one-day build, I'm going ahead between coats and just heating it up with the hairdryer, and the hairdryer actually is a really useful tool. And I was able to move on. So I'm still going to let that dry for about 15 minutes. And while I'm doing that, what I want to do is just do a dry brush on the palms of these gloves. It already has this texture, so I'm going to use that to my advantage. And what I'm going to do is I have this antique gold metallic paint, right? So just dry brush, get most of the paint off the brush, and I'm just going to kiss the surface, and it just picks up that texture, right? So this is for free. You're probably never going to see the palms, but in case you do, you know, if the hand just turns momentarily, there's something going on there, and that just cost us, you know, 5 minutes. All right, so now all the pieces are dry, and we're going to have a little painting party. Same technique, dry brush, same paint. And really the trick here is to get all of the paint off the brush, and then you just lightly kiss the surface. What I usually will do is start on a piece that's not prominent, just to kind of get my rhythm, to get my groove going. And then once you get in the zone, the big challenge is not to go too far, right? It's always just, you gotta get it just right. I've gone overboard before. If you go under, that's good because you can always add more. So that looks good. And now I'm gonna seal this all with a clear coat. And again, so hit that with the clear coat. Off camera, I hit it with the hair dryer. And I'm gonna let that sit. So now I know from experience, learn from my mistakes, when I glue to fabric, the glue has a tendency to soak through the fabric, right? That makes sense. But the first time I ever glued fabric, I ended up gluing one side to the other, and that was a disaster. So here I have my E6000, and when I'm doing organic materials, I like to use this E6000. Now I'm gonna double down, because this is a one-day build. I would usually let this set overnight, 24 hours, but I got to move on. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my E6000, and then I'm putting around the perimeter some hot glue, because that'll be an instant bond. That'll set in about 10 or 15 minutes, and that'll allow me to move on in the process. Then once these are done, I'll put them aside, and by tomorrow they'll be cured. And here what I'm doing is I'm putting some push pins through the foam into the fabric, just so that everything has a nice firm bond, a nice seal. And I always do this with fabric and foam. I always use the push pins. And again, I'm making my little sandwich here. The E6000, that's the heavy duty stuff, that'll last a lifetime. And then the hot glue, which could last, but I don't want to take the chance. I'm just putting that on so that I can get to work on this and finish this today. Again, broken record, if I was not doing this in a day, I would let that glue sit overnight. Right, so now, there it is. I think that came out good. It's kind of funny with the with the little candy buttons, but here's the beauty shots. And that looks great. And when it moves by like that, you get the C-3PO vibe, and you're only meant to see them at a glance, right? This is not the hero prop. He'll have the mask on and a suit, but these hands will subconsciously read as C-3PO. Looks good. That was so much fun. Now, again, I want to reiterate. So the principles are universal, right? So you could take these steps and make something original, right? And it's always good to take a cue off of something like C-3PO, right? And then make it your own. But the principles, the steps are the same, right? Some fabric, some foam, some glue, and you know, on camera, this stuff looks great. Well, as always, I hope you found this stuff useful. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I love to read the comments. Be sure to check out our merch shop. Pick up a t-shirt, really helps the channel. And remember, I'm just here to help make sci-fi.